Hello and welcome to Disastrous History. We are going to talk about the 2021 December 10th Mayfield, Kentucky tornado, which is one of the longest tracked tornadoes in history. It was on the ground for a whopping, 165 miles. Right there, 165 miles, reached a mile wide. It caused 57 fatalities and one indirect fatality. Also injured 519 people. Reached EF4 strength in numerous locations, including several locations where some people argued it probably could have been an EF5. But we are going to go through the damage indicators and see what we think, what the analysis is, and understand why it was rated the way it was. So, without further ado, on December 10th, 2021 at 8:54 p.m., this tornado formed just south of the Tennessee-Kentucky line near Woodland Mills, Tennessee. Now, looking at our radar here, you can see our velocity couplet right in this area starting to form. It's not well defined yet, but it is getting there. It's interesting because this particular supercell, which you can see the full outline of here, right here, had just picked up a tornado previously, which was right here. Went from Arkansas through the boot heel of Missouri into Tennessee. It was originally believed that this was one long tornado, but it did actually pick up in this stretch between Roney's Store and Woodland Mills. This tornado killed 6. This one would end up being more deadly and arguably causing more damage. So, our first damage here is loss of roofing material. We had a little bit of damage. There's a tree snapped right there. This is where our first touchdown point was for this particular tornado. And we stay at that EF0, EF1 strength for just a little bit before we get to that EF2 damage right about here. You can see a significant portion of this roof of this home was completely removed. We have some downed trees. Now, remember, this is December 10th, so none of these trees were going to have leaves anyway, so that's not entirely unusual. This over here is unusual. It's missing all of its branches, and it's at least partially debarked. So that's indicative of some pretty good damage. What did this one get? See, 115, so just inside that EF2 level. We've been on the ground at this point for 5 minutes. That's it. We are at EF2 level, and we are about to hit our first EF4 indicator right here, just outside of Case, Kentucky. So all walls collapsed. Let's see. That's trees. Also, trees are a little bit of the home right there. You can see how all of the walls collapsed, but the slab is not clean. Much of it is still here. This is probably a low end EF4. 170, kind of low end. You can see the propane tank has been flipped over there. You can see all of the walls have been removed and collapsed. They're not anchored, so that's going to be a knock against this particular tornado simply because it just wasn't that much. It's also not swept it completely clean. I would have expected that's the same photo. I would have expected a lower end EF4 or even a high end EF3 for this. But it is, all of the interior walls are collapsed. So that's probably why they gave it that high or that low end EF4 versus high end EF3. Simply because everything here has been collapsed. There's not like any interior walls still standing, and we have some pretty good debranching of these trees here. And it's going to be harder for this branch to take off, or this tornado to take off these branches, because during the spring and the summer you have those leaves, and despite the fact that it's relatively easy to pull leaves off, they do add surface area and drag that will cause more damage to trees. So the fact that these have been ripped off without leaves on them is a more difficult thing to do than if it were in the middle of, spring or summer. So just keep that in mind. So we got our first EF4 damage. The tornado then enters case. Let's go ahead and update our radar real quick. Let's see what time. 9:01. Let's go to 9:01 here. 9:01. Check, select. All right, let's see what we look like here. We have a pretty good hook right here. It's not great, but it's getting there. You can see the velocity scan here. Let's see what our correlation coefficient looks like. We definitely have a debris ball. You can see it right there. Lines up perfectly with this hook right here. Definitely have a debris ball as it's moving towards the northeast. Let's go back to our relative velocity here. Most walls collapsed except small interior rooms. So this was 152. So let's get an actual picture of the home. Okay. So we're going to compare this one and this one. Nope, not the picture I want. I think it was 2. Maybe it was 4. There we go. Okay. So you see with this one, you have all of your exterior walls are collapsed except for this one. You can see the impact of debris as it was hitting this house. You've got your walls are collapsed, but you still have your interior walls here, right? You can also see there's a little glass bottle sitting on the shelf right there, despite the fact this house has been ripped apart. Wow, what tornadoes will do. Anyway, so you still have your interior walls. Here, the walls are still intact, but they have all collapsed. So this is why you get your EF4. This is why you have an EF3 here. You still have walls standing on the exterior compared to this one where you have no walls standing, right? That makes sense? I guess that makes sense. Like, you guys can, communicate back to me. So I believe that was that this one? Yeah, that was this one. Okay. So let's look at this EF4 damage across the street. So this is a small retail building, fast food restaurants. Let's do... Oh, wow. They weren't kidding. Some anchor bolts. Curious why this one didn't get EF5. There's no... Maybe it's because there's... Interesting. I wonder if it's because it's an open area. So once the windows failed, it was just a big open parachute, essentially, to pick this building up and toss it. It's probably what the reasoning was, because it has some bolts here that are still intact. The slab is clean. I do wonder if this had been cleaned up prior to them arriving, at least partially. Because I'm guessing that this was not here during the tornado. I wonder if there was also more debris here. I wonder if this collapsed during the tornado and they cleaned it up. Let's look at this EF4 damage over here. Also a small... That's not... Is that a boat? No, it's the back of a semi. It's a flatbed. Yeah, I feel like this was probably cleaned up before they got there to do the damage. You can also see that it was cold. Yeah. You can see this tree damage back here. That's crazy because it is wintertime. There are no leaves. So this is just pure tornado power. Collapse of exterior walls and top floor. Oh, this is the high school. Oh yeah, you can see right there. You can see this is collapsed. All on the top floor. There's significant damage to the windows. Water tower's still there, though. Let's see what this photo is. Oh, it's the same one. Okay. So these two I have questions about. Curious if it was... So that's part of the thing, is that sometimes people start to clean up before they actually get to the site to do a survey. So you can't tell what was there before, and they have to do an estimate of what it was. Now this is pretty impressive. You can see these steel beams have been bent with the bolts bent as well, partially pulled out of the ground. Now this building is only going to end up with an EF3 because, again, once you have one structural failure, it is essentially a giant parachute, more or less. So that's that. Where are we at here? Whoa. We're going to move on here, continue northeast, go along. We're at EF1, EF2, or that's EF0. This is EF1. These green triangles are EF1, yellow triangles are EF2. Orange is EF3. Let's see what this is. Collapsed metal truss. This is going to be, these are going to be transmission towers. Now, this is one of those things that's interesting to look at, is when you look at fence lines, you can see the twist in the tornado as it goes through because they're all at a slightly different angle. Let's see if there's a better photo. No, not that one. Yeah, no. Okay. That's one of the things I like to look for when you're doing this. Is it's very interesting to be able to see the twist in things as you go by. Let's go ahead and see EF2. Where are we at? 908. Let's go ahead and go to our 908. All right, so looking at our 908 radar signature here, we've got a pretty good velocity couplet there. We've got a little bit of a hook echo right there, and then I want to zoom out on what is going on at this time. So we are headed towards, we have a major-ish tornado at this point headed directly this direction, right? Directly at Mayfield, which is a fairly decent-sized town in southwestern Kentucky. But if we zoom out here, we have all of this storm system going on right here. We have this supercell right here, which has already produced one EF4. We have this storm system up here by Madisonville, which is producing a tornado. We have storms up here in Missouri producing tornado. We have storms up here in Illinois and Indiana that are producing tornadoes. We have multiple tornado warnings down here in Arkansas. Like, this is a very, very busy time at this point. So as we move forward here, we're going to go ahead, get up towards Mayfield Road. We've got collapsed metal truss towers, some pretty good tree damage right there. We're going to go up here. We're almost to Mayfield. So just before we enter Mayfield, let's get our radar set up properly. So 926. Let's see, 926. There we go. Moving up. All right. So, as we are entering Mayfield, right, we have a hook right there. We've got a very solid velocity couplet right there. We are in a bad spot. They are in a bad spot. Look at our correlation coefficient. That is a large debris ball right there. Now, we are not that far actually from the radar site. It's only scanning at about 1,500 feet, which isn't that bad, to be honest. That's a pretty good distance. And looking here at the damage, as soon as we get to Mayfield, not even in Mayfield proper yet, we immediately have EF4 damage. This is a 1 or 2 family residence, slab swept clean. Now, this is about as clean as you can get. You can see the debris in the background, all jumbled up in these trees, and it is completely gone. I am assuming the reason this is only, I believe, a 170 rating, 180, is because the home was nailed to the foundation and not actually bolted. Same thing here. Whoops, excuse me. I didn't want to zoom out. I wanted to scroll down. Same thing here. Transformer There's a tire swing on the tree. There's a bunch of debris back there. There's the home right there. Can't really tell much of anything from this photo. Across the street, we have single wide home. It's gone. Not even sure exactly where it was located prior to the tornado. There's a boat, car. That was a truck. There's a car there. Yeah. Almost looks like there was something there. Because there's a tire. There's going to be a tire right there. I'm unsure what this was. Can't quite tell. But you have some very aggressive tree damage throughout this area. And then we move on to our next EF4 damage. This is the candle factory. Now, the candle factory was a big deal with this particular tornado because despite the fact that it was 9:30 at night when this factory was hit, there were workers inside, and the workers inside had a tornado warning at about 5:30-ish, and they were told after the initial tornado warning that if they left the factory to go home because there was more severe weather threatening, they would be fired. And the vast majority of people working in this area were immigrants and were essentially told, if you leave, your job will be gone. And Mayfield is a bigger town, but not a big town. So there are not that many jobs, and having one at this factory here in town was a big deal. So many of them stayed simply because they didn't want to lose their jobs. So when the second tornado warning was issued at 9 p.m., they all took shelter in the candle factory, and it was completely wiped out. I don't know why they don't have any photos of it on here, but here, let's just Mayfield, Kentucky candle factory damage. Here we go. Don't give me the AI. It's gone. That is about as bad of damage as you can get for a for a factory in general. There were 7 employees inside that died. There were 110 people in there. 8 deaths. I'm sorry, it was 8 deaths, not 7. It was 8 deaths. And a lot of injuries with this particular candle factory. And this received EF4 damage. I think that you could make an argument that it was EF5 damage. 170 wind speed. I feel like that's a little bit on the low end, but I'm not the one that's paid to do it, so I'm just looking at it after the fact. But yeah, that was a bad situation. I don't know if this candle factory is still in business either. I think they were likely sued out of business because, it's not a smart idea when you tell your employees that if they go home because of severe weather, they'll be fired. So continuing on, let's go ahead and move us a little bit forward because the radar signature in actual Mayfield is horrifying. Because that's right as it hits. This is right as it hits the candle factory. Let's push forward to 9:30. In actual Mayfield, it is not great. So if you look at this reflectivity, usually when you have that pink, it means there's a lot of things that are reflective in it. Hail, rain, heavy rain. This one is likely because there is a significant amount of debris in it. You can see right here this massive debris ball as it hits straight through the center of Mayfield, Kentucky. Straight through the center of it. Whoa, man, it really likes to zoom way out. That is, you can see this hook. Give me my marker. Right through there. It's an incredible storm structure. Just an incredible storm structure. And horrifying. So, we're looking here. We go into Kentucky, Mayfield, Kentucky. There's damage through here. They just don't have any photos of it. Metal building system, completely destroyed. There's a car sitting on top of it. There's a truck sitting underneath it. That might not have been there. This truck back here might not have been here beforehand. Can't tell. Total destruction of building. Oh, it's a firehouse. It was there beforehand. That's a fire truck. That looks like almost a rescue. Can't quite tell from this angle. So that was the firehouse. It's gone. One or two family residents. You can see exterior walls are gone, except for this one. Interior walls are still standing. EF3. You can see some damage over here. And this one, roof's been ripped off. This was probably EF2 damage. This is the exterior portion of the tornado. You can see here, collapse of load-bearing walls. I wonder if this is all collapsed. Oh, no. It ripped off. You can see there's more damage in the back. You can see the actual steel frame. Apartment complex, the top story is gone. The roof's been gone. Exterior walls have been ripped off. You can see the poles are still intact for support. The rest of it is gone. See here, all walls collapsed. This is an EF4. It's not slabbed. It's just collapsed. But all of the interior walls are also collapsed. So it's above an EF3, but not to EF5. This is probably, 170 lowish and EF4. That's why. Continuing on, we have an EF1 damage here. Oh, it's because it's a storage shed. You can see it's been rolled up. It's not just ripped up, it's been rolled around the top. We got EF3. This is probably elementary school. Collapse of load-bearing walls. Church with collapse of roof and several load-bearing exterior walls. It's a church. So this is a brick structure. It's been taken down. Big hole right here where it's collapsed. You can see a big hole right here. You see where the old arch used to be. You can see there's another collapsed building back there over in that general area. Curious what that used to be. Low-rise building. Complete destruction of all or a large section of a building. What'd they put this one? 188 wind speed. Oh, wow. You can see the collapse. I don't know if I would have done that, but I wonder if this was an apartment complex. Let's see. Yeah, this might have been an apartment complex. Can't quite tell. It's fascinating the bushes are still there. Let's see what this one is. Also low rise. I think this was also an apartment complex as well. But these are all going to be pretty universally EF4 simply because they are not swept clean. Same thing. Debris still there, but all of the walls are collapsed. So continuing on through Mayfield, we have another EF4 damage indicator here. Health Rehabilitation Center, no pictures. We have another one here. Another low-rise building. Let's see what this one is. Oh, yeah, you can see this was a brick structure, completely collapsed. Still there, but no interior walls remaining, so it's going to get that EF4. Probably 180-ish. Let's see. Moving on, we are now out of Mayfield. You can see it went right through the heart of Mayfield with a pretty wide damage path, straight through the middle of downtown. Mayfield was more or less devastated by this particular tornado. I think the best thing was that it went through the actual downtown portion and it didn't aim south, because this is mostly homes. This is going to be a lot of businesses. Now there's going to be apartment complexes here, but it's also going to be a lot of the businesses in town. Going up here, it's also going to be homes. So if there was a good thing to come out of this, it went through the part of Mayfield that it did. Then moving on, we move out of Mayfield. We're back at EF3. That is a photo of something. All right. We continued on at more or less. There's not much through here. It's going to be mostly rural, so there's not going to be much damage. You can see here, this is EF3. Exterior walls, interior walls still intact. Going up through, we get back up to EF4 strength. Let me update our radar here so we are tracking at the same time. We're at 957. This tornado has been on the ground for an hour at this point. Because, if I remember correctly, our first damage indicator way back at the beginning was at 857, I think. 849. So we've been on the ground for an hour and 8 minutes. One long continuous path. Looking at this radar, we have a solid velocity couplet right there. Like, that is about as good as you can get right there. We've got this is an odd looking storm. Let's look at our correlation. And there's a smaller debris ball, likely because as we went over that rural area, it dropped a lot of its debris and it was no longer picking anything up to replace it, which is why we're at that smaller debris ball. Nope, wrong button. Right there. So this was a home. Not sure what that was. Interesting. Is that a car door? No, it's just something with wood on it. Just says many homes leveled. So there's multiple homes throughout here. I'm guessing the reason that this wasn't EF5 as well is because there's a lot of debris left, and also it wasn't well built. Like you can see here, this does not have anchor bolts. None of the debris is left. This also might have been, this was under construction. Was this under construction? Yeah, this was under construction. Yeah, this was definitely under construction. It might have been built, but it wasn't finished. Let's look at this one. All walls collapsed. I don't know which house they're talking about here. Let's see. Oh, it says numerous homes with all walls collapsed. Some wiped off foundation. This is just an overall photo. Yeah, okay. Which damage and subdivision. Wild. That's the fire investigator side of me is itching because, like, okay, let's look at this photo again. When you're doing an investigation and you're trying to show something, you need to provide a far shot, a medium shot, and a close shot. This is a close shot and then a closer shot. We have no context surrounding these two photos. I don't know if this, I'm assuming this is a basement because this concrete wall back here was possibly a home that was built into a hill. So I don't know where on the home this is. I don't know anything. And then we have this photo. I don't have a clue where this is. This does not provide any context whatsoever. And when you're going to do something like this, you need to be able to provide a far, a medium, and a close so you can give the viewer that idea of what is going on and what you're trying to point them to. I greatly appreciate the National Weather Service putting together this website. It is super helpful, and it's nice to be able to go through and look at the damage and say, okay, I see what they're looking at here. I see what they're doing. But some of them offices do a little bit better than others at providing proper context and being able to take photos and tell. You need to be able to tell a story with your photos. Like, this does not give me anything. I can see this is ripped off here, but I don't have any other context surrounding this photo. Same thing here. Like, if you're going to do overall photos, you need to do one overall photo and then pick a home and do long, medium, short, or far, medium, close for that particular home to give the viewer an understanding of what exactly you're looking at. Rant over, potentially. Second story gone. See, this doesn't help me. It says second story gone. Is it this home? I'm assuming. Was this home built into a hill? Because there's a car there. Was that car put on top of the second story? I don't know. This is a hill, so I'm assuming so. But I don't know. Anyway, okay. I'm done with my rant. So we continue on. Go across. We're at EF2, EF1 damage. We're back up to EF3 as we come back on land here. Exterior walls collapsed. Multiple homes with all or several walls collapsed. You can see there, roof's been removed. You have several collapsed walls on the exterior with interior walls remaining. Say that's a pretty good EF3 indicator. Tire house shifts off foundation. Let's see. Okay. Seems like that house is in pieces to me. I feel like that arguably would be a little bit higher than 125, but, maybe it was under construction. Might have been under construction, to be honest. Was I looking at the wrong one? No, I was not. I was looking at the right one. Maybe it was under construction. Can't quite tell. I'm guessing this one was cleaned up. This was absolutely cleaned up. Continuing on, we're going up. We need to move our radar here. Let's get a little bit farther. 1013. We still have a wild velocity scan. Anyway, moving on, moving up. We get to our next section of EF4 damage. All walls collapsed. Around a dozen homes had to be demolished along Dogwood Lane. Most houses suffered complete roof loss, but this one observed all exterior walls collapsed. Survey was a combination of aerial on December 11th and ground survey on January 26th. So this is going to be, I was going to say this is not going to be a detailed one because they didn't get there until a month and some change later. So most of that was going to be cleaned up already. Guessing this was, yep. Yeah, I'm not going to have any good photos of this. You can see right where the core of the tornado came through, though, right through here. You can see damage. This roof's been removed, but this home right here, this home right here, this home right here, completely gone. This one's got, you can even see directional damage on here. That's pretty crazy. You can see the directional damage. This end is worse than this end. This end right here, worse than over here. This end appears to be worse than over here. This end, worse than over here. We've got pretty good directional damage, too. And we continue on. We get back to EF3. Trees debarked. Let's see what the trees look like. Those are cars. Well, we got some trees in the background. That's an official Kentucky vehicle. Recognize that anywhere. I went to school in Kentucky. That's why I would recognize it anywhere. Continuing on. Let's go up here. We've got EF3, and then we have another EF4 point here. Let's see what this says. All walls collapsed. Over a dozen duplexes suffered complete roof loss on Clarkdale Court. One of the units had all walls collapsed. Yeah, this was an aerial survey. It looks like multiple had all walls collapsed. That one and maybe that one right there. Can't quite tell from this photo. Huh. And we got another EF4 right here. Wow. That was a multi-story apartment building, and you have three interior walls left. That's some good effort. That's putting in some damage right there. Same thing here. You've got 3 walls left, all the exterior walls. That's EF3. This is EF4 because it's a bigger building, requires more energy to actually do the damage. Continue on. We're still going to hover right around that EF3 damage. This likely has nothing along it. Yep, these are all trees. This is all going to be tree damage. Oh, small barn. Yeah. Continuing on, we have EF3 again. These are probably homes. Yep. It's a generous EF3 rating. 140. Okay. Sure. We get into here to Barnsley. We've got EF3 damage again. All walls collapsed. Okay. This is probably a high-end EF3. Yeah, 160. So we're just about into that EF4 range there. Continuing on, let's move up. We get back to EF4 damage up here. Like this did EF4 damage in numerous locations. I'm guessing that this was a very cold damage survey. What time was this at? 10:59. So at this point, this tornado has been on the ground for 2 hours. Touchdown at 8:49 has been on the ground since 8:49 has been on the ground for 2 hours. You can see we still have a really strong velocity couplet. This was a long-lived, strong tornado. We've got more EF4 damage here. This was cleaned up. This was absolutely cleaned up. So I'm curious what that would have looked like before it was cleaned up. All walls collapsed. Home gone, no connection. High EF3 to EF4. What they end up giving it? 170, that's EF4. Some more EF4 damage. All walls collapsed. You can see everything's gone. It's still laying on the slab. It's not clean. Continuing at that relatively strong. We get back down to EF1 here, but this is likely all trees. Yep, trees. Trees. This is all going to be tree damage. It's going to be hard to give any higher than that. Let's see what this is. That's a tree. Not what I want. Also a tree. Oh, you can see some of the house right here. Looks like exterior walls are collapsed. Yep. It's going to be exterior walls are collapsed and the interior walls are probably still remaining. We're at that EF2 level. Continue at that for a long time. Let's look at this last section of EF3 up in here. Let's see what this one is. So we've got all exterior walls collapsed, but interior still remaining. Wonder if those were outside beforehand, or if someone found them and put them there. That car has been rolled several times. That car has been rolled several times. Yeah, same thing. Walls collapsed. Interior walls remaining. Pool's been ripped open. That's a water heater. Wonder where that came from. Huh. This is pretty much EF3. 136. Yeah, it's low end EF3. Yeah. After this, it kind of tapered out, did a little bit of EF2 damage here, a little bit more EF2 damage. Was still at relatively decent strength. Anyway, we kind of dissipate, end off towards the end. I think overall, this was probably an EF4 tornado. There's a couple places where they didn't get out to do the assessment quicker than the people there living there cleaned up the actual damage. But I think that overall, this was a pretty good EF4 tornado. I think they got this one right. There was a lot of hubbub after this one, thinking that this was going to be the next EF5. And just, I think because of how well pronounced the velocity couplet was, how big the debris ball was when it was in Mayfield, how much damage showed up during the first initial photos that came out, because it did happen at nighttime. So it looked way more, well, it was horrifying, but it looked way worse when it was nighttime. And I think that they got this one right. There's a couple places where I'm a little hesitant to agree with them. But I think that overall this was probably a high-end EF4. And I believe they gave it 185? 190. So this was a high-end EF4. I think they probably got that one right. I think there's a couple places where it's questionable, but it is what it is. And I think they did a good job. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I appreciate you all. Let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, all those fun things. And I will talk to you all later.